And yet again, welcome to another edition of Internet Traffic Kings. I'm the Big Fabu, John Fondy, broadcasting from the campus of UNLV right here in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you, things are not only going to be heating up on the show, but they're heating up all over America here as well. It's particularly, we want to remind you that this is a non-ad sponsored show. We don't have commercials on the show. And as your help to us is we'd love to have you go to
Apple Podcast and give us 5 stars. Thank you, Bennett. Give us 5 stars. Internet Traffic Kings, also internettraffickings.com. I'm just going to have John just go,
Yeah, really, I'll just
right? And our YouTube channel, Internet Traffic Kings.
Great.
What did I miss, John? Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Yeah. What else?
Spotify,
that's right.
Yeah, YouTube is off the charts now.
Yeah, we're getting about 17,000 views per episode that week, so it's doing really, really well. Exciting.
Yeah, what's your MySpace page?
MySpace, yes, sir. MySpace. We remember all those days, don't we?
Well, so much for
it's really good, John, that Bennett's got jokes. He doesn't know what's in for him today, does he?
No, he doesn't.
We're of course talking to our executive producer, Kevin DiVincenzi, and we're going to mix things up a little bit here because we've got Bennet Kelley, who's normally on here in the show, and we're not going to have any guests on the show. We're just going to maybe do some roundtable talking here and kind of get to know the inner workings of Bennet Kelley. And of course, you can reach Bennet Kelley at bkelly at internetlawcenter.net. And of course, we'll take your questions as well. You can go to internettraffickings.com. We'll take some questions on there as well. And Kevin, I'm just amazed that you just do not disappoint us in terms of the guests that you bring on the show. They're almost overwhelming, and the diversity of those guests are just phenomenal. But you've been in the business for about 23 years, so everybody knows you and you know them.
It's been fun, John. It really has. I can't say that it hasn't been a lot of work to get the guest on, but it's been fun and very rewarding. So I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, we'll keep up the good work, and we'll keep growing our audience as well. And that's what I always say, that if you've got good programming, people will find you, and they will be loyal. And the one thing about our shows, if you're just watching this show for the first time, is we mix up every show. This show is a little more laid back. We kind of have some fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we come through. We get the job done, and we're really in a position to help people pivot, change, grow their business, whatever the methodology might be that they're trying to get from. Getting from A to B has certainly changed a lot now, and we have we're adaptable to that. And Kevin, you've been around the business such a long time. You're one of the best consultants that's out there. But you're willing to basically have a conversation with somebody and kind of steer them, keep them on the right path, or let them know how to get on that path as well.
Absolutely. We offer consulting services. We're extremely busy in this time. At the same time, let me just put it out there. If somebody is in an existing business, so they've been in business, they need to pivot, we will absolutely give them free advice. Get that third party perspective. Somebody that's been in the business for 23 years. Sometimes it's a small change or a small tweak that'll get you on the right track. With that said, if you're just starting a business, you have an idea, that's something that we really can't. Otherwise, we'll be overloaded with inquiries. That's not something really that we would do on a free basis. But if you're already in business and you need some help, I will absolutely give you my time to help you get on the right track.
Well, we're going to take a moment now. We're going to fill up the bowl. We're going to take them off the couch, put them on the porch, and of course we're talking about the big dog. We're talking about Bennet Kelley. So we'll let the dog out on you right now. And Bennet, thanks so much for being such a great host on our show, all this time. And we just wanted to take a minute and thank you for everything that you do, and more so than that, the things that you do for your clients as well. And I kind of have the opinion here, basically, that you really are a helpful guy, and you're friendly, and you're happy to be around and stuff like that. And so we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Bennett, for those that don't know you, do you mind taking a moment? I mean, they hear you on the air every week, but just explaining your background, where you came from, and
Sure.
we're going to put a little focus on you this show.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually, I was asked to give a talk on internet law at an alumni event. I went to Georgetown Law School.
Nice.
And I look back, and the very first website came after I graduated from law school. So my field of law didn't even exist when I was in law school.
Talk about a pivot.
Yeah. And so, and then, the Civil War happened, and then COVID, all those other fun things. But, so I've been practicing law actually 30 years in June was when I was sworn in.
Congratulations.
And my background is I got involved in technology companies at the end of the 90s. And I worked with a competitor of Ticketmaster, then worked at a bunch of internet and online advertising companies. And I did about 5 or 6 years in-house at these companies, and then launched my firm in 2007, which we've been going gangbusters now for 13 years. And so our focus is we represent a lot of people in the online space, a lot of people in online marketing and online advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in-house at ValueClick, which is now Conversant. So I work with companies like yours and other marketers. I work with developers, e-commerce companies, and a whole variety of companies. And I call that the happy vertical that I work with. And I also happen to represent the other vertical is the dark side. I represent victims of online harassment.
Mm-hmm. The feedback I can give you from a personal perspective, Bennett, is why I enjoy personally using you and our company using you as a firm is you get business. And my past experience doing this for 23 years, using other law firms, is they don't understand the business case. So the few challenges that we have had that I brought to you, I was able to explain to you what the business case was and what my upside was, and you could then evaluate that and say, well, Kevin, here's what I would do and here's why, as opposed to just go, 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 go. I mean, I've been, involved in the past where, I did a collections deal 10 years ago where the client owed $140,000 and I literally spent almost $140,000 collecting it. So, it was a bad deal. And meanwhile, it could have been negotiated for, call it 10 or 15,000 in legal fees. So I've learned, from that mistake, that get somebody that understands the business. So I just want the viewers to know that as well. From my personal experience, you're a businessman as well as an esteemed attorney. You've got both those skill sets, which is quite hard to find. So
no, that's actually
congratulations.
I always consider it the best compliment I've received. I had that earlier in my career when I was in-house, and I started off with a bunch of companies that actually had never had an in-house lawyer. So having, to answer to a lawyer was new, and they were kind of leery. And, I just explained to them what my approach was, and I wasn't there to be a doctor. No, I was there to help them get a deal done.
Right.
But I just had to explain these are what the risks are.
Sure.
Well, and that's true. A lot of times, that's really from the perspective that a lot of attorneys come from. It's their job is to say no. And
right.
Really,
to keep you safe. Right.
And, so understanding that no isn't always the best answer. It's the one that the best answer is the one that you've researched. So you're advising your client to do the right thing, not just show up, take a paycheck, and hold their business back. And so that's kind of what I have found. And you're right. A lot of times it's not the happy thing, you're when you're the happiest with your attorney, it's when he closes the books and walks out the door.
Exactly.
But
that's the thing. We're like undertakers. I mean, you're never really entirely happy to see us, except when you've got a settlement or we have your check in escrow from a deal we did. But and going back, that conversation I had with an early client. They were new, and I told them how to work with me. And I said, here's the deal. You're very successful at what you do. You're a great salesperson. And if everything goes right on this deal you bring to my attention, we're going to make a lot of money. Everyone's going to be happy. You are Mr. Sunshine. You're Mr. Sunny Day. And, you know, my case, I have my job, actually. It's not just because I have that disposition. It's my job. I'm paid to be Mr. Rainy Day. I have to think about, you know, all the things that can go wrong with this deal. And I'm the guy with the umbrella. And so I have to figure out, okay, if these things happen, what is the risk of that? And so then we have this discussion about, okay, how do we get your sunny day, you know, possibility in a way that minimizes rainy day risk? And so, you know, that's why I said my job isn't to be Dr. No. My job is just to make a decision where we've thought about these things and we try to mitigate, you know, the things that we think we can control while still pursuing something that might be lucrative.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, just like, you know, when people take on Kevin's company, you know, they're making an investment in their future.
Right.
And that's the same with you. Is somebody probably needs to come to you before they don't need you, so
Right.
you set them up into a position of where hopefully they would never need you because you've done everything correctly.
What's that saying? An ounce of prevention, right, John? Understanding and taking the proper steps and having the knowledge of, you know, if you're going to go into a gray area, know your risks and know, okay, well, yes, technically it's legal and this is, you know, but understand, you know, what is happening before, you know, you get hit with a lawsuit or something worse, or, you know, potentially government action. So, and the challenge, especially with online marketing, is it's constantly changing. It's
Right.
constantly evolving. The laws are changing, you know, the CCPA, all these different things come out.
And the platforms change.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have somebody seasoned to work with, you don't know how to be in compliance. So, you know, a lot of people will go up and they're like, oh, privacy statement. Yeah, I'll just go grab this one. And
Right.
They don't know. And it could be the simplest thing, even, you know, Bennet, the DMCA, right? Somebody will have an image on there that's a copyrighted image. And all of a sudden, and I've been there, right? I've been there years ago. And then you get a bill from Getty Images for $4,000 because you used an image that you grabbed off Google and you thought it was, you know, free to use.
Right. It's on the internet. It must be free. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know any better, you know? So just
I've had a lot of calls with Getty Images.
I'm sure. Yeah. Probably for me.
They're actually very nice people. You know, I'll be honest. I'll say they're very nice people.
And they're right. They're protecting their copyright, but I'm saying just to understand that, that you can take some precautions when doing that and, you know, just taking the proper steps. So, yes, it might cost you an extra $5,000 in legal review setting up a campaign, but it's going to save you from potentially $100,000 in legal expenses. Because a lot of these things, you know, as you know, Bennett, just they balloon, right? It just goes, you know, everybody's got, you know, everybody puffs out their chest and, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden, you know, you're just racking bills and nobody wins at that point. So if you're do it the right way, and I'm sure you'd much rather spend your time consulting with people and keeping them out of trouble than actually getting them out of trouble, right? I mean, that's probably a better use of your time.
I started my career with a litigation firm. We worked with such boutique clients as Exxon, Caterpillar, Anheuser-Busch, you know, the little guys.
Yeah. So speaking about an ounce of prevention, Bennett, I'm sure you would much rather have somebody take the right steps up front. And yes, it might cost them $5,000 up front to do it properly instead of defending them down the line. I mean, I'm sure you'd much rather be a consultant in that sense in doing things right than, oh, Bennett, this just happened, right?
Right. I mean, the whole thing with, you know, lawyers is sometimes they get wrapped in the process. And, you know, for example, I started with a litigation firm and we did, you know, big national clients, big cases. And I realized that yes, I was a litigator. But that was just one tool I had. Really what we're lawyers is we're supposed to be problem solvers. And sometimes the problem isn't solved by litigation. Sometimes the problem solves through negotiation. Problem can be solved by, you know, improving your compliance and improving your contract so this doesn't happen again. And so I think lawyers sometimes have to step out of the box and think about, okay, what's the best way to solve the problem? And so,
I mean, I was just going to think a real world example was, you know, without obviously disclosing any details, you and I were involved in something where months down the line, at a hearing, we both discovered that the person that we were in litigation with didn't even understand the whole story.
No.
And had that epiphany. And then at that point we were like, hey, we need to reach out and have a conversation and negotiation. We actually settled it, but that's where the process just totally failed, because it was just the legal process. You file this, I file that. You file A, I file B, and we just kept going back and forth. And when we finally all got in the same room, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't know this and you didn't know that. And we're like, whoa, let's just sit down and that's, and that was very eye-opening to me as well. Like, wait a minute, we just needed to have some communication and just a conversation instead of a conversation through filings. And that's really important, because again, a lot of people get tied up with puffing out their chest and I'll show him and I'll show him. You know what? Nobody's showing anybody anything. What you're doing is costing each other, a lot of money, and it's something that could have been solved. And that case, again, without saying anything about that case, I can say we ended up not just resolving, but potentially doing business with the company again, where
that's good.
Walking into court that day, there was no shot we'd ever, these guys didn't even want to look at us. We didn't want to look at them, but it was mostly just everybody following process and never having a conversation.
Well, it's so true. And I always say there's three sides to every story. There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the truth. And the quicker you can get to that truth and be open in negotiation. And Kevin, that's something that you're really good at. You're very firm and you're very confident, but you're also, try to look at both sides of everything. And
absolutely, John. You always have to think, what is the other person, what is the other person thinking? What is their expectation? And, again, the case that Bennet and I were involved in, until we didn't make any headway and the client, made an offhanded comment like, nice doing business with you or something like that, I finally went, whoa, wait a minute. Why is this guy angry at me? I should be angry at him. He never paid his bill. And then I was like, well, he's angry. So something's wrong here. And that's when we started digging and we're like, let's fix this. Let's reach out and let's get this fixed. And we did. And we did very quickly. And this was something that went on for, well over a year. We were able to resolve it, within a couple of emails, few phone calls, and we're done. And everybody's, not happy, but everybody's satisfied with the result. And like I said, now they're potentially going to be a client again, because
I just got
we uncovered nobody did anything wrong. It was just a miscommunication, and hey, it happens. Okay, absolutely.
And I just got a prompt actually that we would be going to trial. I think like in a week or two. Had we not settled that case. So
funny. Yeah. There you go.
The rules have changed ever since all this stuff came out, and they're constantly moving the goalposts, and so marketers they're busy doing what they do best, which is market products and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So many cases, they're not intentionally making mistakes, but they make these mistakes. What are some of the consistent mistakes you see marketers making?
I have one thing I always call the Mickey Rourke rule, and it goes to there was a movie in the 80s, which I don't even know if it's on Netflix anymore, called Body Heat. Yep. It was done by Lawrence Kasdan. It was actually Kathleen Turner's first breakout movie. Yes. And it's a love triangle in this film noir set in a steamy, hot southern town. And William Hurt is this small-town lawyer. Beginning of the movie, he gets off Mickey Rourke on some small rap, and he becomes a recurring character in the movie. But Hurt's in this love triangle with Kathleen Turner, and love triangles are unstable. Usually, someone wants to get rid of one of the other triangleites, and that's what happens here. He wants to get rid of her husband. So he goes back to Mickey Rourke, who has a little bit of a criminal history, so he has an expertise. And so the lawyer is asking the criminal for advice. And it's a great scene. And I even have my blog, and I tell you what minute to go to. But because Mickey Rourke is in his garage and he goes up top on the loft. And so he's actually talking down to William Hurt. And he said, basically repeats advice William Hurt gave to him. And the advice was, anytime you go to commit a crime, there's 50 mistakes you can make. And if you're a genius, mind you, you'll think of 20. And trust me, you're no genius. And I say this not to insult people, but I've seen it happen in compliance efforts where people think, I'll go this close to the line. And then, kind of, maybe it's a little bit borderline, but I'm not over enough that I'll get in trouble. And I said, well, here's the problem with that theory, particularly in marketing, where you're relying on so many other different vendors. You're counting on every single person down the line getting everything right. If one person screws up, you're not this much, over or under the line. You're way over. And I've seen that happen a few times, people who think they can be cute and think, I think I got it figured out. Well, even if you have got it figured out, you still have that risk. And as Mickey Rourke explains, you may not have thought of everything. And so there may be some other issues to consider.
And that's the point too. You could make, 6 figures a month in a campaign and then all of a sudden get hit with a TCPA lawsuit and get wiped out.
Exactly.
We had one TCPA lawsuit that was not our fault. And we're spending well over $1,000 an hour on legal counsel because you've got specialist attorneys, et cetera. And again, we were just the affiliate network as a conduit, right? But our advertiser pulled us into it, and this went on for a year, and we spent so much money on it, and it ended up getting dropped or what have you. But the point is, up until that point, I'm like, this is a great campaign. We're making all this money. We thought we were doing everything perfectly, and then there was something small that we didn't know for a fact happened or what have you, and it became a mess. You mentioned your blog. Do you want to give our viewers and listeners your blog? Because you're up for an award again too, right?
Yes. ilccyberreport.com, or you can get it, access it through my website, which is internetlawcenter.net. And awesome. We were nominated for Best Individual Blog by the LA Press Club.
That's great.
And we've been named one of the, I think, top 100 blogs, internet law blogs. And I think on Twitter, we're one of the top 26 people to follow on internet law. And that's Internet Law Cent on Twitter. So
on Twitter. Staying with this theme, Bennett, in regards to dotting your I's and crossing your T's. Yeah, love triangles too. What is a contract provision that a lot of business people don't care about but should? And
it's one that it's.
I was just going to say, to dumb that up is just somebody gets a contract and like, oh yeah, that's all standard. Yeah. It was that show on Netflix that I don't know if you've seen. It's called Terms and Conditions.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it because it shows that if an average consumer read all the terms and conditions.
Oh my God, yes.
Right, that it would take them physically half of their life just to read them all. But I think we've all become accustomed to just, I agree, and it could be 15 pages. So as a business owner, and I tend to do it myself. Oh, well, that's standard. So what are the pitfalls that somebody should look for and say, well, wait a minute. Like I know personally, Bennett, you've taught me, jurisdiction, right? Make sure jurisdiction's in your state. So that would be one. So
that's it. I mean, that's an important
biggest
one.
Okay.
And here's why.
Well, liability too, though, right?
There's a couple of reasons. But a lot of it depends on who's paying who.
Right.
If you're getting paid and you have to collect, you want jurisdiction to be in your backyard. That matters. Or if you're not going to specify, if it's either you specify it's your backyard or just don't have it specified. And then you're not prohibited from suing in your backyard.
Let me break that down. You want that in your backyard because you want them to then have to bear the cost to travel to your state. Because again, we do a lot of interstate and also worldwide business. You want them to be forced to travel to your state, which is going to bear a much higher cost, which might be cheaper to just pay their bill as opposed to having to fight this out with you, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a case when I was in-house. We had a contract and it had choice of law Florida. Uh-huh. And, where it was California, we could have just done it in-house, no extra costs. And, so now it's Florida. That means we have to engage someone in Florida.
Right.
So that means we're really only going to pursue this if the dollar value's over a certain amount.
Right.
So we just gave, by allowing choice of law in Florida, I mean, not choice of law, choice of venue in Florida, we just gave that other side a buffer of 5, 10, 15, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
We gave them that buffer where if they don't pay that, as long as it's under, they'll get away with it.
So your recommendation is if you're getting paid to make the jurisdiction your home state as far as.
So there's two things. There's jurisdiction and venue. Obviously, having jurisdiction sometimes is looked to as to where the venue should be, but it's not, doesn't necessarily, it's determinative, but usually there's choice of law, and obviously that it's, if you can get your own, that's better. But sometimes, there's choice of venue. And not every contract has it, but when you've agreed to the other side's venue, if you're the one that has to collect, that puts you at a disadvantage. What you can do is say, hey, I'll give you your choice of law. We'll agree to Wyoming law.
Sure.
In the case of the the two sheep against the farmer, and and the but I won't agree to venue. Let's just not agree to venue, and then each side is free to sue wherever they want.
Okay, that's great. And then what about arbitration? Like I've heard over the years, Kevin, never have an arbitration clause. Kevin, yes, have an arbitration clause. What is your feeling on arbitration, particularly in internet marketing, as far as having that in your contract?
It's funny. I worked on a big deal, $20 million deal, and we kept going back and forth in arbitration. And here's where it came from. I had tried and won cases in arbitration, so I thought arbitration is great.
Sure.
He had, and I had a good arbitrator, a smart guy.
Yeah.
He had the opposite experience. He had one of those arbitrators that's, said, well, let's be a little fair to them and a little fair to them.
Right.
He wouldn't do his job, which was to decide, and tried to, cover both sides. So we just felt like, arbitrators, like, this doesn't make sense. So, that became a sticking point. We kept coming back to it because we both had different experiences. Here's the benefit of arbitration, and it has the advantage of one, being confidential. So Kevin, if we had an agreement, that our disputes would all be arbitrated, you won't see a record, and you can't search and find a record online that I sued you for this.
Right.
Because it's an arbitration. And if you win, the person arguably has to pay. If they don't pay, you then can have the arbitration award entered as a judgment. And then you can, you still have to file it in court. But the way you usually draft the clause is, there's no challenge, there's no appeal. So that process shouldn't take time, although sometimes it does. But that's the benefit. The other benefit is it's usually quicker. Particularly now, I have just filed an arbitration, and if it's below, $100,000, usually you can get it done in a couple of months.
Okay.
And the fees are less, and you don't have this discovery, and that's where a lot of the cost of litigation is.
Absolutely.
It's back and forth and documents, and then lawyers arguing over the documents. You didn't give me what I was supposed to get, and then the depositions, the time frame. Now, sometimes you may want that because you have a hard time. They have all the evidence, and you need that to get your proof. So that can be a disadvantage. Although arbitrators will allow some discovery. I often try to limit it to keep the cost down. So that's the benefit. Arbitration keeps the cost down.
The discovery does get expensive. Again, I can tell you from my personal experience, and a lot of it is you do want to protect you do want to extract as much information as you can from the person that you're suing or being sued by. Yeah. But you also want to protect your proprietary information from being disseminated, or misused. So so it's a game of cat and mouse, but a very expensive one.
Right, and arbitration is is confidential. It's not filed. So any brief that's filed, if it references a confidential document, it's not going to be public. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. And also there's usually you're not able to do class actions and things of that nature. So that's one of the benefits. But you have to assume hopefully you get a good judge. But it's the same as a risk in court. You can get real knucklehead judges, and we've all seen them. Yeah. Actually once had a judge who he wouldn't decide for 2 days. He made me sit in court 3 hours, 2 days in a row. And then finally he called me into his chambers and says, I don't do internet stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that there's still a disconnect at least from what I've seen personally, with a lot of these judges, that they don't understand it. So they don't understand, what a click is, what a lead is, how you buy traffic, sell traffic. And that's a disadvantage, obviously, for all parties involved, because they don't understand it. I mean, hopefully, and we were fortunate, you got a judge that's willing to learn it. Yeah. But now you still got to invest the time to educate them and say, well, let me break it down for you. And,
and with arbitration, you get to pick. Right. And you can look at their background. Have they done technology?
Yeah.
And so
that's probably the biggest selling point for me would be, because then at least you have somebody that gets it, so you don't have to bring them to speed.
I mean, I worked at a company, we had over 200 employees, and we had a judge that read magazines during the trial. He allowed something that wasn't a trade secret to go to the jury on a trade secret case. Oh, wow. And our $70,000 employment case became a $15 million trade secret verdict.
Oh, wow.
And this was in Orange County, California, not Crazy. Silicon Valley. And everyone in Silicon Valley is like, he did what? He let that go? Insane. And but here's the problem. To appeal in California, you have to post a bond for 150%. So we now have to do our largest fundraising round for over $20 million just to appeal a BS verdict.
Wow. Insane.
And, this may shock you, but that company went under. There were a lot of reasons, that besides that, but that was you couldn't raise money after that point.
Right, for sure.
Speaking of going under, the thing is that.
Did you have in mind, John?
We're going to be dealing with the remnants of the COVID thing for a long time. Even when there's a cure, there's stuff that's going to still linger on after that. What's your sense on that? So
the reason why I'm in my monkey suit today is I was in court just a little while ago. My first video conference appearance. A lot of them have just been telephonic.
So you weren't in court. You were in your office or in your living room.
I was in my office wearing a suit and tie.
Or the top part of the suit.
The top part of the suit and tie, yeah. Right. I have sweatpants on now. Yeah. And the judge, the case ahead of me, the judge said, have you guys had any settlement discussions? And one side said that we don't want to talk settlement. And the judge just shook his head and he says, we're going to have a real hard time here because, we have a harder time getting jurors because people are freaked out about COVID and all this stuff, and cases are all being delayed. And so even if you get to trial, it's going to be a while. Right. And you might want to talk settlement because this is not going to happen very quickly. And I don't think that's in your client's interest. So that's a big factor to consider right now. And then we go into your earlier question, arbitration versus not. Arbitrations are happening. Court cases, it could take days. And it would take months before you really get anything happening.
Right.
And so.
Makes sense.
That's the big thing I'm seeing in terms of the legal process changing because of COVID. The other thing is your ability, for example, depositions now are done by Zoom. And, there's a power to being in the same room and confronting someone.
Right, of course.
And showing them and watching their reaction.
Of course. Same thing with appealing to a jury, right?
Same thing. Yeah, and you lose that dynamic. I was at a deposition once we were beating up the guy so bad, he would say something and we'd show him a document where he lied. And I was on videotape and he just got mad and he just ripped his microphone off and started swearing at people. And we had a fight. Almost had a fight. And then we actually settled the case 3 hours later.
Sure.
But that power of being in someone's face is important.
Yeah, I would think so. It's crazy. Just, even the Emmy Awards are now going to be online, just seeing how
Oh,
you know,
really?
yeah. They just announced in September they're going to do the Emmys online, which, you know, so great. You know, put on your great evening gown
Exactly.
and tuxedo and go in your living room and make sure the kids don't run in as you're getting your acceptance speech. I mean, I could only imagine what that's going to look like. But
That BBC guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe they send red carpet to everybody so you can roll it out in your living room and walk down the red
That's
carpet.
true. Like, what does E Entertainment do? Yeah, we're standing outside the home of.
Well, you know, it's funny because I looked probably in April. Like again, I've always said I don't watch the news. I don't really follow any of the mainstream media just because I don't want to be poisoned by it. But I was really curious back in April. I'm like, let me look at TMZ and see what could TMZ be covering right now, because obviously they're normally covering,
That's
you know,
true.
yeah. So literally, and it was
And what were they?
it was just garbage. It was, you know, it was, you know, I don't even remember, but it was so irrelevant
Yeah.
to what they normally cover. So, you know, Bennet Kelley, you know, his wife says he watches porn, you know, and, you know, don't get mad at your wife for telling me. And, you know, it was just stupidity, but they have to fill some content. What do you do?
They have to.
Well, plus,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's weird. I have a
that's what
weird
you're based
memory
on.
from 9/11. And it was Viacom switched all their channels to CBS's live broadcast, the news.
Right.
And so I did what you did. I wanted to see, what does everyone else have? And I landed on BET, which is a Viacom station. And so there was Dan Rather giving the news update on BET. And I wish I had taken a picture of it, because just kind of the incongruity of, you know, Dan Rather, I mean, great journalist, whatever, but, you know, I don't really think of him as BET material. It was one of the few moments of humor from that day. It's just like, okay.
Well, and this has really been great, letting us put you on the hot seat, as Kevin's always on the hot seat, if you will, and so whenever we get a chance to turn it around a little bit. But so I want to ask one final question here.
Sure.
This is probably one of the more serious questions that you're going to hear from us. And so, have you ever been in court without any pants?
Yes, today. I had an 8:30 hearing, and
so now what happens if the judge says, "Mr. Kelley, stand up and address the court"?
All rise, all rise,
all rise.
Yes.
Right. And then he says, "Mr. Kelley, I see you're at attention already. Great." Okay.
I had the top hat on, and I picked this tie because it was already tied. And
clip-ons are the best. So.
There was we had a little earthquake here last 4:30 in the morning, and
I heard
my computer wasn't loading, and so it's working now. But so I had to scramble and get a laptop. So,
oh boy,
I didn't need the pants to do the hearing. So
that's true. That's good to hear.
Sure.
So speaking of being at attention, we want to thank our audience for being so attentive to us.
Absolutely.
As well, and we want to remind everybody that that this is a non-ad sponsored show, so you can really show your appreciation by go to Apple Podcast and give us those 5 stars. That's really going to help us out a little bit, and also, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Be a subscriber, and you'll get information on all the shows that are come out, when they're coming out, so you can stay current as we're continuing to shoot these. And you can hear us on Spotify, also on Facebook, and go to our YouTube channel, Internet Traffic Kings. And Kevin, we got a few more out there that where people could find us as well.
Yes, Stitcher. There's quite a few different places that restream us, but I mean, I would just stick Apple Podcasts is the best. I like it because you can subscribe, and then every time a new version gets released on Tuesday, you'll get the notification. Or YouTube, click the gray subscribe button. In closing, Bennet, thank you so much. And again, internetlawcenter.net, Bennet Kelley. Again, one of the best guys I know in the business, and a businessman on top of an attorney, and that's invaluable, at least to somebody like me. And just everything space.
Absolutely true. And so every week we've got new guests, we've got new topics, and we've got new information. So we want to make you a loyal follower of the show, and you can do that by keeping us in the loop wherever you listen to your podcasts, and go to our YouTube channel as well. So for everybody here to everybody out there, I'm the Big Fabu. I'm John Fondy, broadcasting from the studios at UNLV in Las Vegas. I want to thank you guys all so much for being with us, and we'll see you on the next episode of Internet Traffic Kings.